Alright, let's talk about them Chiefs. There's no denying that the Kansas City Chiefs have been the most dominant and impressive football team in the last 5 years. Bringing in veteran head coach Andy Reid was certainly a catalyst for this success. His deep knowledge of the game and comfortability in big moments always bring a sigh of relief to Chiefs fans. But it was the introduction of Hall of Fame on the field talent that turned a good football team into a dynasty. Notable names are Chris Jones, a man that strikes fear into all offensive linemen, Travis Kelce, one of the best tight ends in football and KC's most reliable pass catcher, and of course, Patrick Mahomes, a quarterback who is season by season making the case to be the best player to ever do it. Super Bowl 58 will mark the fourth time in the last 5 years that the Chiefs have gone to the biggest stage in football. But this season did not come without its setbacks, or a better term would be dropbacks, like dropbacks, you know what I'm saying. At the last year's AFC Championship award ceremony, Travis Kelce would get on the mic and claim that everyone doubted the Chiefs that year. It didn't really make sense at the time, given that the Chiefs were a top 3 favorite to win the Super Bowl before the season even started. However, that statement makes more sense this year, as throughout the entire regular season, much speculation was had on this team would even make it to the second round of the playoffs, let alone another Super Bowl. So, what caused all the doubt? What was going on with the Chiefs, and how did they pull it all back together? Well, let's take a look at the Kansas City Chiefs' road to Super Bowl 58. It's September 2023. The Kansas City Chiefs are hot off a come-from-behind victory at Super Bowl 57. There seems to be nothing that can slow this team down, and they are ready to start this season off hot with a victory in the NFL kickoff game against the Detroit Lions. The stage was set for an amazing introduction to the 2023-24 season, but the Chiefs would not be entering the game at 100%. First, Chris Jones announced that he would not be suiting up for the game against the Lions due to ongoing contract negotiations, and even worse, Travis Kelce would suffer a hyperextended knee and bone bruise only days before the game, forcing him to sit on the sidelines. But that shouldn't matter, right? I mean, it's still the Kansas City Chiefs, defending Super Bowl champions. So maybe Jones and Kelce are out, but they still got Patrick Mahomes. The game might be closer now, but Mahomes should be able to handle the Lions for the Chiefs banner game, right? That's what a lot of the media pundits were saying before this game, but the result of the game would be a bit different. At the end of the day, this game was not as important as people were making it out to be. While it is impressive that the Lions were able to knock down the defending champs in their own home, it's also fair to point out that the Chiefs did have some handicaps. However, the final score is not what's interesting about this game, but it's that this game is an encapsulation of all the frustrations and hardships that the Chiefs would face for the entirety of the season. We'll break it down as we go along, but let's start with the biggest issue that the Chiefs faced this year. Not a single Chiefs receiver could even catch the ball. Okay, no, in all seriousness, the amount of critical drops a Chiefs receiver had at any point in the season does not make any sense. 44 out of 597 passes dropped by the Chiefs. Now, this doesn't sound like a lot on paper, but in the NFL, it is a lot, and these drops were happening in the worst moments possible. There were 3 drops in the game against the Lions, and a tipped ball that would turn into a pick 6 that shifted the momentum to Detroit's side. It was a frustrating loss, but there's a lot of season left, and hey, Kelce and Jones are back. Smooth sailing from here on out, right? Following the Lions game, the Chiefs would go on a 6-game winning streak. Some of these games would be a bit closer than people thought they would be, but the wins were still racking up, until they met the Broncos for the second time. This game would be quite an embarrassment for the Chiefs, losing by 2 scores against the struggling Broncos, who would snap their 16-game losing streak against the Chiefs. But hey, Patrick Mahomes was sick, so it's no big deal. Casey would go on to beat the Dolphins in Germany, and they would get ready to have their Super Bowl 57 rematch against the Philadelphia Eagles. And man, what a game this was. 2 of the NFL's best, at the time, going head-to-head, back and forth. This is a good time to talk about a bright spot for the Chiefs this entire year, the defense. While the offense outside of Patrick Mahomes has been underwhelming, Steve Spagnuolo was cooking up something special with this defense, keeping the Chiefs in every single game they played. It was no different against the Eagles. For the first half, Spagnuolo was able to deflate this usually effective Philly offense, but Spags could only do so much. KC would not be able to score any points in the second half, and the score would be 21-17 with less than 2 minutes to go. But then, When all hope seemed lost, a man broke free in the backfield, and Mahomes, being the player he is, recognizes this instantly and throws an absolute dime to a wide open Marquez Valdez-Scantling from 50 yards away, and he dropped the ball. Kansas City would go on to lose this game. This look on Mahomes' face says it all, and it leads to issue number 2 for the Chiefs: frustration. Being frustrated in moments like this is perfectly human, but we would be seeing a lot more of these faces from Patrick for the final stretch of the season. In future games against the Bills, Packers, and Raiders, we would begin to see a real loss in composure from Kansas City. And it wasn't just Mahomes. Travis Kelce wasn't against showing the viewers how he felt by throwing his helmet on the sideline. Now, just a second ago, I mentioned the Bills game, and that game deserves a little talk because it leads right into the final point about the Chiefs: a young man named Kadarius Toney. Oh, Toney, where to even begin? Remember when I said that in that Week 1 game against the Lions, one of the Chiefs players tipped the ball in the air that ended up being a pick six? Yeah, that was Kadarius Toney. Toney has dropped the ball 11 times in his career, and 5 of them were in this season alone. But as we all know, Toney can sell his team even worse by not having the ball. That's what takes us to this one play against the Bills. Game on the line. Mahomes passes to Kelce, and Kelce, with his high-level awareness, laterals the ball to Kadarius Toney across the field, and one of the coolest touchdowns that puts the Chiefs in the lead. But Kadarius Toney's foot was offside, and the play gets overturned. Seriously. And the Chiefs would go on to whine so much that we would have to hear about offensive offsides for the remainder of the season. To recap the Chiefs' regular season, it was not one of their prettier outings in the last few years, but the season was still an overall success with an 11-6 record. The Chiefs clinched their division, and it was time for the playoffs, where the real Chiefs came to play. Starting with the Dolphins at Arrowhead, the Chiefs made easy work of them. Aside from a few early drops, this was a pretty clean game from the Chiefs, and those drops can be forgiven because the temperatures that night were sub-zero. Going on to the Bills in Buffalo, and this was a fun back-and-forth game. Mahomes had another clean game with 0 turnovers, and Tyler Bass would go on to miss the game-tying kick, and the Chiefs make it to the AFC Championship game against the number 1 seed, Baltimore Ravens. The Chiefs' defense would put on a masterclass by only giving up 10 points. And, in a poetic turn of events, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who had arguably the worst drop of the season for the Chiefs, would go on to make the game-sealing catch against the Ravens, handing the Kansas City Chiefs their 4th conference championship in the last 5 years. How did this happen? How did the Chiefs seemingly clean up all their mistakes right in time for the playoffs? Well, not only is that what good teams do, it's what good coaches do. I give a lot of credit to Andy Reid for resetting the focus and reminding the team that none of those regular season performances matter anymore. It's time to be the best you possibly can. Oh, and also Kadarius Toney did not play a single snap in the postseason. Seriously, that was a huge help for them. I know they've been saying he's injured, but Toney came out and said he's not injured, and I'm not getting into it. But now here we are, Super Bowl 58. A win for the Chiefs would further cement their claim as a dynasty and Patrick Mahomes as the up-and-coming greatest. But I think this one would mean a bit more than the others. Because a win in this year's Super Bowl would mean that no matter the adversity they face in the regular season, and no matter how much ridicule they face from the media, the Kansas City Chiefs team can battle through adversity and still win it all.